Well, I think we're ready to get started for the deep dive this morning. I want to say welcome to everybody. Good morning to everybody joining here on Monday, May 9th. If you saw the update, the video update that I did, we're going to talk about forbearance and foreclosures this morning. We haven't covered that topic for quite a while on the deep dive. You know, it's an important topic to stay up to date on. And, you know, we haven't done it as much because it hasn't been as big of an issue over the last 2 years. We covered it pretty frequently, the forbearance topic, but I'm going to give you an update on that to show you just where we're at so that you can answer any questions and really give your clients the truth about this topic. You know, I'm going to talk in just a minute about a webinar we're going to do later this week, separating fact from opinion. And I think that's our job right now in this market. I think over the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to see a lot of things that are going to cause a lot of questions in people's minds. You know, one of those happened last week. I can't start this week, and I'll get into the forbearance topic here in just a minute without talking about the Fed and their move last week on interest rates. You know, the Fed funds rate is what the Fed controls. They raised that 50 basis points last week, you know, at the tail end of their meeting. And, you know, a lot of people asking questions about that first piece of information there. That's not the mortgage rate. You know, if you followed the deep dive or you've been following KCM, you're well prepared for that conversation. We're all on the same page. But, you know, what they are doing is they're raising the Fed funds rate to, you know, sort of work to curb inflation. And here's what I would be telling my clients right now. Inflation is the enemy of long-term interest rates, okay? So that's the bottom line of today's market, is that, you know, when we start to think about interest rates and long-term interest rates, as long as we see high inflation, we're going to see higher long-term interest rates. And certainly that's there's a lot of things that go into interest rates as we look at that. But I got a couple slides on that before I hop into the forbearance topic. But you see right here from First American, while some additional Fed tightening is already baked in today's average mortgage rate, ongoing inflationary pressure remains likely to push mortgage rates even higher in the months to come. So as you look at mortgage rates, you look at the 10-year Treasury this morning. If you've even looked at that, that's moving higher. Expect in the short term here higher interest rates as the Fed works to, you know, sort of contain inflation. As they get inflation under control, then we'll see what that outlook looks like. But a lot of things bearing down on interest rates right now. You know, what that's looked like for, you know, since the beginning of the year is we've sort of skyrocketed over the last several months. The average 30-year fix, according to Freddie Mac, as of Thursday of last week, 5.27%. You know, I talked to several people last week, some of you that watched the deep dive, I get a chance to interact with, and one banker quoting in the high fours, a broker quoting, you know, in the mid to high fives. So rates all over the place there, but the average 30-year fix, 5.27%, growing from, you know, the beginning of the year about 3.1%. So, you know, quite a hike in the first few months of this year on interest rates. If you're looking for a way to get that message in front of your clients, be the educator, be the knowledge broker, like we talk about, today's blog on the KCM blog is an excellent way to do that. How today's mortgage rates impact your buying home, and it's eroding affordability. So our job right now is to get the truth out in the market, educate the clients we serve, and help them make the best decisions for them, you know, and their families, and what their situation is. So that's a little bit about interest rates. That's going to be a topic that we're going to continue to follow. Let's move to sort of today's topic on forbearance and foreclosure. I want to give you a little perspective on forbearance and foreclosure. I want to update you because here's what starts to happen in our business. The Fed is moving, like we just talked about. You know, you just about can't, you know, turn on TV or read a news article without the word recession starting to pop up. And everybody starts to think, here we go again. Everybody that hears recession today thinks housing crisis from 2008. And while, you know, in our business and here at KCM, we've certainly talked about that many, many times, but we can't forget people think that. And what do they think? Okay, when we come into this housing crisis caused by the recession, that's going to mean foreclosures. And I'm going to wait on the sidelines and I'm going to snap one up as that comes along. So I want to educate you so that you can bring the facts to the clients you serve. Some of these, this information is just shocking. And I want to start off with probably one of the most shocking pieces from Black Knight. It's this: 92% of the 8.2 million homeowners who sought forbearance protection have exited those plans. That's great news. We should jump up and down and say that that is really, really good news for those that had an issue, forbearance being the tool given to homeowners to help weather the storm during COVID. 92% of them have exited those plans. That's a great, great thing. We want to see more come off those plans and expect more to come off those plans. And by and large, they're coming off whole. And I'm going to break that down for you. I briefly covered it last week, but I'm going to give you a little bit more in-depth look at it this week. Because if we go back in time and we think about forbearance, there was this initial forecast that, 1 out of 3 mortgages, 30% of mortgages were going to go into forbearance. And certainly we know the cure rates at 60 and 90 days. And if you go into 6 months or 12 months of forbearance, how are you ever going to make back those payments? And maybe some people that aren't in our business still believe that. Well, the actual peak you see there in the middle, 8.6%. Where we stand currently, 1.1% of mortgages as of the end of March. They report this information monthly now. And so where we actually ended up was nowhere near what was initially forecasted. Certainly the results of that forbearance have been positive overall. And I think time will tell as we go through this what the complete picture looks like. But the bottom line is, loans in forbearance are still falling. You can see going all the way back to May of last year, almost 8.5% of mortgages. Right now, just over 1% of mortgages in forbearance. That represents about 730,000 mortgages right now in forbearance. And those that are coming out whole. I'll go back to the slide that I used last week. We'll break this down real quick. Again, if you followed the deep dive, if you followed KCM, you're familiar with this. We've used this slide for the last year and a half as we've followed everything, almost 2 years in forbearance. And it breaks down what's happened as people have come off of forbearance. This is as of March 31st this year. So everybody from the start to this year, 37%, the green portion, were paid in full. Those are people that took it out saying, I'm not sure what is going to happen. And it's sort of an insurance policy that we're going to use. And they either made their payments, they paid off the loan through a sale, or they were brought current at the end of forbearance. It was sort of a fail-safe sort of safety net that they used during COVID. The blue portion, 44.6%, went through a modification. Think about that as a rate and term refinance, or some type of modification, or they went through a deferral where the bank tacked it onto the back end. 29%, the largest portion of that. We know that happened in a lot. So when the home sells, that that second or whatever position that lien is will be satisfied. But 4 out of 5, over 80% of the people coming out either didn't need it or went through a workout with their bank. And so we have to keep this information in front of our clients that are thinking, what about those that couldn't pay for their mortgage during COVID? What about this recession? What about the economy slowing down? How is that all going to play out? Well, forbearance is not going to be this impactor of all of this right now. 18% still in trouble. Either they don't have a loss mitigation plan, or they're already in some sort of short sale, deed in lieu, things like that. But the bottom line is, forbearance was a tool that worked for homeowners across the country during COVID. And as we come into this year, we've talked about it, we're going to see year-over-year increases in the number of foreclosures, but still below where we've been historically. And let's kind of break that down. First quote here from Radar: forbearance and serious delinquent loans continue to decline to pre-pandemic levels, attributable to the strong housing market and loss mitigation activities implemented by policymakers, investors, and mortgage servicers. So a strong market, a strong plan equals these folks have options. Again, let's contrast this to the 2008 housing crisis. People didn't have options. They literally walked in a lot of strategic defaults where they owed more on the home than it was worth. And today, what do we know? We've seen dramatic appreciation in homes. People have options today if they do need to sell. If we go back to the question, or the sort of the position that I posed as we started the deep dive today, those that are waiting for those foreclosures to come on market, or saying, I'm going to wait until those come, then I'm going to snap up a few. Well, the bottom line over the last couple of years is that we have had over 400,000 fewer foreclosures in the last 2 years that we've had historically. So the historical average, if you want to take an average most recently of 2017, 2018, 2019, about 290,000 foreclosures a year. Now, I want to be sensitive to this topic. We were talking about this in the deep dive, and we're going through all these numbers. Those represent people that are running into a challenge. We certainly don't want that for anyone. It's a fact in our business. We can help those that are in a challenge today, and that's a great thing. But if you look at the last couple of years, we've fallen short of the number of foreclosures in this country. We would need 400,000 to come, on market just to catch up with the last couple of years. Now, I don't think we're going to see anywhere near that this year, and I'll show you just a kind of a position of where we're at right now. But, we are in a serious deficit of that inventory across the country. And good news is, again, people have options if they need to do something and are in trouble. They can pay a commission, put a little bit of extra money in their pocket as they move through the crisis they're facing. And we certainly want that for them. To really position this, where are we at right now in foreclosures? Again, we're going to see month over month increases. Foreclosures increase for the third, fourth, fifth month in a row because we're coming out of the time where there was a moratorium on foreclosures, and we have to remind clients of that. Last slide that I have right here, I think this is important to remember. Rick Sharga from Adam Data, we quote Rick a lot. Foreclosure activity has continued to gradually return to normal levels, but even with the large year-over-year increase in foreclosure starts and bank repossession, foreclosure activity is still only running at about 57% of where it was in Q1 2020. That was pre-pandemic. Okay, so about 57% of what we saw then is what we're seeing right now, the last quarter before the government enacted consumer protection programs due to the pandemic. So expect those numbers to increase as folks come out of that. Don't expect for there to be this tidal wave of foreclosures that hit the market. As soon as those homes hit the market, they'll likely sell quickly. Hopefully somebody sells before they have any issue. We've always said here on the deep dive and at KCM, if there is somebody that's going through that, then we can help them in today's market. We can be a resource to them, where back in 2008, they had to go through a short sale or something like that, because you'll likely sell today, sell above list price, and be able to, to have an option there in your time of crisis. So I'm going to wrap on that in just a minute. I'm going to turn it over to Jess, see if we have any questions. But I want to remind you of this. We have a webinar coming up this Wednesday. It's separating fact from opinion. And I think right now there's nothing more that we need to do than separate fact from opinion. It's one of the reasons I'm talking about foreclosures today. We're going to cover that on the webinar, but these are the market insights you need to give expert advice today. And I think over the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to see a lot happening with the Fed's action, with people talking about recession, with rising interest rates, all the things happening that we need to be able to have a relevant market opinion based upon facts. So separating that fact from just a plain opinion. If you haven't registered for that, I'm sure in the comments here, that'll be added where you can go register for the webinar. But that's on Wednesday of this week, 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific, and hopefully we'll see everybody there. So Jess, I'm going to pause for a minute. Any questions that we have from folks on today?
Hi, Dave. I actually didn't see any questions come through. Lots of chatter, lots of people saying hi, but no questions today.
Okay, good. All right. Well, as always, it's great to start the week here with everybody on the deep dive. If you haven't done it, register for this webinar. We'll see you on there on Wednesday, and we'll see you back again next Monday. All right. Take care.